En el centro de la pampa vive un pimiento. Sol y viento pa' su vida, sol y viento.
Hello, I'm Patrick Barnard. Welcome to the 47th edition of the Pimento Report. Today it's a special on a place called Argo Books. Today we're going to take you into downtown Montreal, just about 15 minutes from here, to Argo Books, a place that I like to think of as the finest small bookstore in North America. That's a bit of hyperbole. As you will soon notice, though, the three young people who are now running the bookstore will be wary of that kind of exaggeration, but they do know that they are running a very special bookshop. Argo Books began in 1966 in Montreal. It was started by a Saskatchewan librarian called John George, who came to Montreal after spending time working in his profession in Baltimore and the East End of London. John George was someone here in Montreal whom many of us knew and loved. You're looking now at a very fine sketch of him as Montreal's old man of books. And here is a photograph of young Mr. George, who had left Saskatchewan and was setting out to England to be a librarian in the East End of London. When John came back to Canada, opened his bookstore on St. Catherine Street in the 1960s, he named it after the mythical Greek ship, the Argo, which was captained by the infamous navigator Jason of the Greeks. Argo Books is basically one small room with an office in the back, and for 40 years, until John George's death in 2006, Argo Books was a true book lover's store. It was possible there to find criticism by F.R. Leavis, a Butterfield's History of Scientific Discovery, Dickens, George Eliot, Kerouac, Heidegger, Kant. You name it, you could find it there, and if you couldn't find it there, Mr. George would order that book for you. Now, after 2006, a number of people kept the store alive. They were Jim McPhail, John Wise, Chris Clark, and at the present time, this extraordinary small bookstore is more alive than ever thanks to a vital group of three young people: J.P. Karvasky, Jesse Eckerlin, and Megan Acosta. They stock new works of merit, they host poetry readings, they gather friends and people off the street to talk about books every day, I might say. And there's just been a reading, in fact, at Argo Books by the Montreal poet Brian Sentis and other people. So let's go to meet the new captains of Argo Books. First, an incredibly beautiful sunny day in Montreal, and we're walking now east on St. Catherine Street on the north side of the street, and this is a very familiar walk to a lot of us, and we're going to Argo Books, which is up here on the left, and we're going to go right in there and we're going to take a look, a print of the Argo, that famous ship in mythology. And there it is, right in the window. Look at that. Oh, what a beautiful sight. This is fantastic. Argo Books. Home, home, home at last. What a place. There isn't another bookstore like this in Montreal. A book lover's store, if there ever was one. I'm just going to inch by here. Thank you very much. And let's see who's in the back here. Oh, hello. Mr. Jesse, here you are.
Here I am.
In the nook of Argo Book.
Right in the joint.
Right in the joint. How does it feel today on a sunny day like this?
It's a lot more fun here in the summer.
Yeah, because more people come off the street, huh?
More people come off the street.
Yeah.
It's quite
I just
nice.
saw a gentleman and a lady out here looking at books together, and he has his right hand on her shoulder. It's fantastic. Hey, yeah. Is this your first time at Argo?
No.
No. You're an addict, right? Yeah, good. Me too.
All I really wanted to do was travel. So this was completely I guess this is the antithesis to actually what I was planning on doing. And I found myself, yes, here in the shop, and it presented itself as an opportunity, and it was something that I think a lot of people have entertained. Oh yes, a bookshop, you know, how romantic.
How have you found it so far, running a bookstore?
Up and down. Kind of crazy, unexpected twists and turns, but redemptive on the whole. We've got a lot of very interesting people coming in here. People really eager to learn and eager to talk about books, who love books like we love books. So it's been good. It's been also very difficult though.
Now, as you know, running a small bookstore is very difficult. For example, economically, the margin of survival is thin. Have you found that to be the case?
For sure, yeah, definitely. But in our case, we're sort of a place for people to come who love books. So those people usually don't disappear very quickly. They're not the ones to go to the ebooks or something on a whim. So we're pretty set with those people. So it's pretty good.
Now, you're somebody, tell me if I'm wrong, in a way I see you as a client of the store, but also a friend of the store. You're often here and reading and helping Megan and Jesse and JP. So you've been watching their stewardship, haven't you?
Yes.
What have you seen in the last months?
They've been good. They're trying to learn, and they're always happy to be here, and they're trying their best to increase the demographic of the bookstore, and
Right.
I think it's great.
How many books do you read a week?
On average, about two.
Yeah.
2 books
Okay.
a week. Yeah. About.
For you now, what does this bookstore represent? How do you feel about it?
This place is home away from home, should say. Yeah.
You know, that's the way it was when Mr. George was here too.
Oh.
And I personally, as you know, I come here. I'm still have my old Argo habits. I need to come here once a week or once every other 2 weeks. Otherwise, I don't feel very good. So it's a very funny place, this.
Yeah, I come here almost every day, 5 days a week. I just can't seem to get myself away from this place. So I understand what you mean.
It has an attraction, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
It's a magical place, like you said.
I would say so for sure. Definitely, like the first time I came in, it just had this pull on me. You know, I just wanted to be here all the time. I actually was envious of Chris, the previous owner, because he was so young, and I was like, I want to own this store. And then here I am, like a couple years later.
It's warm, actually. I think that people that have sort of found an affection with the shop, and that this includes myself, have sort of found the space to be actually quite warm, even though it has been modified over the years. And I'm absolutely certain, even though I didn't see what the shop was like from '66 onwards until 2006, that yes, the space has changed quite a bit, but it still retains a sort of same kind of air. I don't know whether or not there's something at work that's unexplainable about the shop, but certainly it has a feeling to it. Yeah.
I'm thinking in the intro to this little video of calling Argo Books the greatest little bookshop in North America. Would that be going over the top?
Perhaps that might be going over the top because one of the things is that they create such memorable experiences that I have friends, I have acquaintances that will explain to me. They'll be explaining to me like, oh, if you're ever in Portland, there's this wonderful little shop. If you're ever in New York, there's this great big bookshop you should go to. But usually, like almost any kind of business, it always seems the hole in the wall always seems to be the most satisfactory thing for people. By all means, give us the title. I hope that we would be able to live up to it.
This morning I was looking at this book of poetry published by Book Thug in Toronto.
Yeah.
And it's a famous Danish poet. It seems to me you're getting more and more of those unusual books that people might look for precisely here.
Yeah. normally overlook. I think is it's either that those are some of the most endearing qualities with customers, is that if they come in here and they're actually able to find something that they have been looking for, I get to hear it. I can see it. I can see it right on their lips as soon as they come in. They're like, I was looking for that. I haven't been able to find this anywhere. And they're not the kind of people to want to sort of sail the seas of the internet to be able to find it. And then the other half are people who they're not quite sure what they're looking for. They and I'm not necessarily saying that their reading is misguided. They're certainly going on intuition, but sometimes I think a shop like the Argo ends up actually surprising you more often than not. Some of the selection is not considered by mainstream bookstores. They're not something that they'd create a display for. Whereas we've created space for the interesting, the fringe, and at times the almost entirely overlooked, I think.
Now there's three of you. You, Megan, and JP, right?
Yep.
The three of you together.
We attempt to be a partnership.
And did you buy this from Chris?
Yeah, we bought this from Chris Clark, who was the owner for approximately 2 years, and sort of had a change of, he had a calling to go and become a Presbyterian minister. So he did a bit of a 180.
Before Chris Clark, there was John Wise.
John Wise and Jim,
Right.
who were bequeathed the store by John George, who was the original owner of Argo, and owned and operated the store for over 40 years, and is kind of a Montreal icon, bookseller's bookseller. So there's a bit of a legacy associated with the store. His aura, I would like to think, still kind of permeates it. He's sort of our model in certain ways.
Now Megan just told me as I was photographing that picture of John George by the cash register that in the last couple of days someone called up, telephoned, and asked to speak to Mr. George.
Yeah. Yeah, it happens actually weekly. If not telephone, then people dropping in, wondering, where that pleasant old man is who used to run the store. He was so helpful. Basically, everyone who drops by has their own John George story. He was incredibly personalized in his. I wouldn't say customer service, because it was more intimate than that, and it was based upon a more fundamental kind of human exchange. So that's another thing we try to do, is achieve the kind of personalized service that he had. So it sticks with people.
There's something unusual about this present incarnation of Argo, don't you find?
Oh yes, and that's actually very, very exciting, because of these three young people that have taken it over out of madness and or love, or the combination of the two. The really nice thing about that is how eclectic it is now. Under the old dispensation, it was good solid bookstore, but now they're bringing in all sorts of wild stuff that comes out of their own interests, both as students and as readers and as writers themselves. So it's very, very Catholic. So you'll find poetically snare books, which is sort of experimental poetry. Next week, Walid Bitar is going to be reading there, who's arguably sort of a classicist, right, up with people like Carmine Starnino and Zach Wells. And they've got me, who doesn't fit any pigeonholes at all.
What are you going to read tonight, Brian? Because as you know, I'm one of the people who does read your books.
You're one of the PS.
What are you going to read tonight?
Well, I'm going to be reading from my new book, March and April. And the way I've got it figured out is I'm going to sort of try to pick up some of the main threads from the book. Love, despair, war, hope, melancholy, and sort of leave a space in the middle so that those who want to hear me read a particular piece can ask for it, and I'll do that for them.
Now, Brian Sentis is coming to read.
Yeah.
That's going to be fun, because I think this place is going to be packed, am I right?
I think so. Our biggest reading was like around 25 to 30 people, and that's our like maximum capacity. So I think we're going to be pretty full. So you should come early.
Right.
The epigraph, which is from a great Canadian poet, great unknown Canadian poet, Orpingalik. He was an Inuit shaman in the 1920s, interviewed by Knud Rasmussen. And he said regarding his own poetics that songs are thoughts, sung out with the breath. When people are moved by great forces, and ordinary speech no longer suffices. Man is moved just like the ice floe sailing here and there in the current. His thoughts are driven by a flowing force when he feels joy, when he feels fear, when he feels sorry. Thoughts can wash over him like a flood, making his breath come in gasps and his heart throb. Something like an abatement in the weather will keep him thawed up. And then it will happen that we, who always think we are small, will feel smaller still. And we will fear to use words. But it will happen that the words we need will come of themselves. When the words we want to use shoot up of themselves, we get a new song. Hey, Zeus! I'm mercurial, saturnine, melancholic, wound up tight, hypersensitive, hysterical. The smallest slight sets me off. Moon, low as it gets tonight, or not. Night, always surprisingly early. Leaves, yellow, leprous, black spotted. On Mount Royal paths, no rust twig snake warms in the sun. Just lean gray squirrels hopping. How much M39 freezer cold Russian Kartoffelsaft milligrams SSRI daily melatonin orgone spikes does it take?
Are there other things that you have thought of doing in the future?
For sure. We really want to start a small press. It's sort of in the works. We've got one little chapbook out. It's really hard to begin because we're already so swamped with all the things you just listed. But we're hoping that within like the next year or so, we can establish a running press through the store as well.
What would the name of the press be?
Well, we're contemplating Argo Press, but then, it could change. It's hard to find a name. We all argue about the name, every time we think of one.